Hey everyone, Carl here with Littleroot Lessons, bringing you a deep dive featuring Ho-Oh this week. Ho-Oh is a very powerful restricted in terms of just its overall bulk, and it's the only restricted I believe to have regenerator or access to it, which makes Ho-Oh just a little bit more bulky than probably the rest of your restricteds. Before we get started on Ho-Oh, remember to hit that like button, do all the fun YouTube stuff, and leave a comment down below what restricted or not restricted Pokemon you want to see me cover next week. So, Ho-Oh. Ho-Oh is a very bulky restricted, and it's looking to take a ton of damage and deal damage all at the same time. A lot of these sets will be usually max HP with a little bit of attack investment, some special defense investment to make sure you survive against the special threats in the format, and a little bit of defense investment and speed investment just to kind of hit certain benchmarks. Between its impressive special defense and HP, it can wall most offensive threats that are popular in the current format. Calyrex Shadows can be walled, Xerneas is a big wall, Ho-Oh technically answers Zacian as well just because of its fire and flying type. Currently, it's also one of the best answers to Xerneas. As we saw in the Littleroot Showdown on Sunday, if you haven't checked that out yet, iCard is above me. Go check that out. It was a great match, very, very close set. But yeah, so Ho-Oh hasn't been around a ton. It tried to make a splash in the Series 8 format as just like the premier Zacian counter because it's a fire type and it's very bulky and it's hard to take down. And Zacian kind of just ignored it a lot of the time, started playing water types to kind of beat it up and things like that. And rock coverage ended up being the overall downfall of Ho-Oh. Colossal was still a very powerful Pokemon because Gigantamax's a thing. You could play like these Zacian Colossal teams and not ever have to worry about a Ho-Oh. You also just had Landorus Therian running around with max Rockfall constantly. So Ho-Oh never really got to get a grip on the format. However, Ho-Oh started to become acceptable as a restricted option, as the removal of Dynamax has made carrying rock coverage a little bit less prominent. You lose Max Rockfall's side effect was it sets up sand, which removes the weather, which has a big play on a lot of these other weather teams like Groudon and Kyogre. However, now that that's like gone, you don't want to carry that rock coverage much anymore because a lot of the Pokemon that rock beats aren't being played as much anymore. Common partners for Ho-Oh tend to include Gastrodon or other water ground types like Quagsire, Swampert, Rillaboom, and Mineshow. All of these Pokemon tend to answer a lot of Ho-Oh's problems. Gastrodon eats up those water attacks for you, helps you kind of just wall steel types if you need to as well. Mineshow is a very good answer to Intimidate Mons, mainly Incineroar. Close combat deals with a lot of Pokemon that could also be problematic. You also resist rock, so it's a decent switch in there. And Rillaboom, again, answers water types, answers rock types, does a lot of the cool, just bulky Pokemon things that we want from Rillaboom. Landorus and Incineroar also appear on Ho-Oh teams usually, but when you start to do this, you kind of pigeonhole yourself into wanting a lot of checks to Kyogre, specifically because none of these Pokemon can help you against Kyogre. So you're kind of more into playing things like Regieleki, and other forms of speed control. We just saw Santino Turquino's Kyogre, Choice Scarf Kyogre team win the Players' Cup 25th Invitational. So definitely, if you're going to be playing Ho-Oh, be ready to build your Ho-Oh teams to deal with Kyogre because it's going to be very, very popular. When we look at the metagame breakdown for Ho-Oh, we can see that the moveset isn't too varied. The big ones are like Sacred Fire and Brave Bird and Protect. Like these three feel very, very solid on most Ho-Ohs. Recover is okay. As a Pokemon with Regenerator and just decent bulk, you're not taking a ton of damage, so Recover can like help you get a little bit extra boost if you need it, but it's not as necessary since you do have that Regenerator ability. Whirlwind's kind of a cute tech. You can Whirlwind out opposing Trick Room setters, you can Whirlwind out Zacian after it like sets up a Swords Dance, you can Whirlwind Xerneas at any point in time, and it gets through Protect, so you never have to worry about that. As for other coverage moves, Earthquake and Iron Head seem to pop up the most. Earthquake obviously there to kind of beat up Regieleki and other electric types, and Iron Head can give you a check into Xerneas or other fairy types that you may need to take care of faster than normal. As for items, Safety Goggles seems to be the most common. I think this is mainly due because just like makes Ho-Oh a very good sun answer, more so than anything else. You can't be sleep powdered, you can't be rage powdered, things like that. Looking at the rest of these items here, leftovers at 13%, not surprised here. You're a very bulky Pokemon, you want to heal a lot, it makes sense. Life Orb kind of works with Ho-Oh really, really well. As you just take that chip, you can switch out, switch back in, and then it's like the Life Orb never did anything. Figgy Berry, Citrus Berry, Assault Vest, these are all just ways to make your Ho-Oh even more of a bulky threat than it already is. Weakness Policy, Charty Berry, White Herb, these are more niche items. You don't see these too terribly often. Weakness Policy as a whole has gone down dramatically in play. Most of the time when you see a Weakness Policy, it's on a Pokemon like Necroz with Duskmane or Calyrex Ice. Something that's going to be able to take a hit a lot of the time and dish out a ton of damage back, which Ho-Oh isn't the best at doing. It can take the hit, but its attack stat is intimidatable. We'll just say that. You can intimidate Ho-Oh very, very easily because it's a lot of pivoting around against Ho-Oh, and Weakness Policy isn't the best item for it. Charty Berry is there to help with opposing rock, and White Herb is there to kind of stop intimidate. When you're building with Ho-Oh, try to play for the long game. Ho-Oh is definitely designed to be more of a stall chip damage mon rather than a super hyper offensive Pokemon that we're used to seeing off most of these restricteds, like Calyrex Shadow, like Kyogre, like Zacian, all those things like that. And when you're building Ho-Oh, having a solid check to Regieleki and an opposing Landorus are almost necessary, because these are why Ho-Oh loses a lot of games. This is why we see water ground types like Gastrodon, Swampert, and Quagsire paired so commonly alongside Ho-Oh. They answer these two Pokemon very, very well most of the time. When it comes to movesets for Ho-Oh, Ho-Oh tends to lean offensively, but also just has a little bit of bulk investment when you need it. Most of these sets are max HP or almost max HP, decent amount of attack, decent amount of defense, some special defense, and a little bit of speed. The first set tends to be, like, if you just take all the common things, it's the most common set you'll see. Safety Goggles, Protect, Recover, Brave Bird, Sacred Fire. This is the most common EV spread. This is what most Ho-Ohs will probably be if someone just slaps Ho-Oh on a team. As you kind of move into these other ones, this second set seems more reminiscent of the Ho-Oh that Carter is currently playing with on Laddering. Check that out if you haven't yet. iCard above me there. Sacred Fire, Brave Bird, Whirlwind, Protect, and a Pinchberry. Carter's is playing Citrus. I prefer Figgy. When you have moves with Recoil, it's nice to just go, if you can go under half, to get back up after like a Brave Bird or a Flare Blitz or things like that. This last set here is very, very bulky and very, very offensive all at the same time. We can't play Protect because we are Assault Vest, but we have access to Fly, which is a little bit predictable, yes, but with proper planning you can easily get around that issue. Iron Head, Earthquake, Sacred Fire, all good moves. If I remember correctly, there's Dual Wing Beat and, like we said, Brave Bird for other flying moves if you don't like Fly. Outside of that, I think we get Flare Blitz as well for flyer moves if you don't like Sacred Fire. Just things to think about while you're building. How to beat Ho-Oh is fairly straightforward. It's very weak to rock, 4 times weakness, so things like Stakataka, even Entei, like Entei with Stone Edge, is very, very powerful, and Landorus can cause issues for any kind of Ho-Oh. Entei is currently one of my favorite checks into Ho-Oh just because you can't be burned by Sacred Fire, you resist that hit, and you could turn around and Stone Edge and just blow up an opposing Ho-Oh when needed. And although it's weak to Regieleki, Ho-Oh's crazy special defense means it actually isn't the best answer. Regieleki attacks on that special axis, and because a lot of these Ho-Ohs are just building up bulk on that side, it's going to take a couple hits from that Regieleki to even get Ho-Oh to a reasonable damage range. Intimidate's Pain can keep Ho-Oh at bay in terms of damage dealt overall, but since it has that regenerator ability, you're kind of just incentivizing them to switch out, heal back up, and then come back at a later time and just put more pressure on you. So definitely be wary, try to lock that Ho-Oh down as one of the last two, and then start to Intimidate spam it. So wrapping up with Ho-Oh, Ho-Oh is a really cool restricted that sees very little play for how popular the Pokemon is and how good its matchups actually are. Between its great bulk and regenerator and its actually decent coverage, Ho-Oh can almost always be a threat in longer games. Definitely play towards that long end game for Ho-Oh, and beware of rock coverage. No matter how bulky you are, super effective hits still hurt, and you got to be wary of that. Regenerator isn't the end-all be-all savior that you need it to be, but it could be enough sometimes. And with that being said, I want to thank everyone for hanging out and listening to me ramble about Ho-Oh today. Remember to check us out on Twitter. All of our handles are there on screen. Check us out on Discord. Discord link's always in the description. Our community's great. Come hang out with us there. And remember to do all the YouTube stuff. Subscribe, comment, like, all that fun stuff. And we will see you all on Friday with a very special Weavile episode. Bye, everyone.